Geoff's Wonderland.
Welcome to the show, everyone. It's a new Friday, it's a new episode, and yet another batch of half-baked observations and musings from yours truly, because that's the way we like 'em here on the Wonderland. And speaking of things being half-baked, I was not surprised at all when cookie dough became an actual flavour of ice cream some years back. I'm actually really surprised it took that long, given that as kids, a good many of us would have more than happily lived on that sort of thing if our mothers would have just allowed it, instead of merely allowing us to lick out the mixing bowl after she'd prepared some kind of biscuits or cakes or, other pastries. I also remember thinking as a kid that it didn't seem to make sense that something so delicious as cake mixture would be turned into something which was often less spectacular, in my mum's case at least. But Mum, God bless her, was not a natural gourmet cook, and given that my family childhood nickname was Garbage Guts, because I ate everything anyway, I don't really think she would have felt the pressure to become one. Anyway, enough about food for now, because I will be coming back to that eventually, and also because there's something that needs to be discussed right now. And no, it cannot wait, because this is the Wonderland, where waiting is right out, and we desperately need to talk about a topic that's been very much on my mind, and I know it will have been on yours. Yep, that's right. I'm talking about multi-purpose musical instruments. You will all be familiar, of course, with the phenomenon of people who make, say, a New Year's resolution to get fit, and they go out on the 2nd of January and join a gym, and then, after a 1 or 2 month flurry of well-intentioned daily visits, and possibly also after having spent a small fortune on fitness clothing, etc., eventually lose interest and return to the sofa, Netflix, and the comfort snacks. Well, this is not exactly what I wanted to talk about, but it is related. And so, in order for us to examine this most important theory of mine, we have no realistic option but to proceed immediately and directly to theory time.
Yo, you can't know what you can't know. I'm going to tell you what I think I know. And I know what I know. This is what I know. Theory time.
And welcome to Theory Time. People are impulsive sometimes, aren't they? And there are two things which we are often very impulsive about. One of them is wanting to get fit, and the other one is wanting to learn a musical instrument. I do have a bit of experience in both areas, and I understand how hard it can be to maintain the rage, as it were, once one has made a significant initial investment in either of those areas, and then subsequently discovers that a lot of time and effort are just as important. The fact is, the tendency to lose interest in either area after a while is almost overwhelming, simply because most people are not very good at busting their guts for what seems like an eternity whilst waiting for the desired results. Now, most of us want and expect to see results right now, and if we don't, we'll often just, cut our losses, sell the flute or the drum kit or the cross trainer, write it off to experience, and take comfort in the knowledge that countless millions of others have, throughout history, done pretty much the same thing. What a bunch of losers. I'm joking, of course, because there's no shame in trying something that doesn't work out. Well, not much anyway. And I reckon all of us have been there, in one way or another, including myself. But I do think that what often burns us the most is the feeling that we've thrown money away for no good reason. And so, ladies and gentlemen, enter the multi-purpose musical instrument. Now, this theory/concept is as simple as it sounds, and not as weird as you might think. You see, we're basically talking about a musical instrument which is designed in such a way that it can be used for something else in the event that things don't work out as originally planned. Now, I really don't reckon any of this is too much of a stretch, especially when you consider that musical instruments have been used as adornments and decorations for generations. One example of this is the acoustic piano, which is often used more as a piece of furniture in the houses of people who've inherited one from grandma and can't actually play the thing to save their own lives. Another one is the electric guitar, which often effectively ends up as a pretty cool wall hanging, while certain brands of bouzouki have traditionally been alternatively used as bed warmers, even whilst being played. Now, with all this in mind, I believe our musical instrument manufacturers will actively get on board with my theory, and that it's only a matter of time before we find ourselves living in a world where, certain traditional Swiss wind instruments are designed to easily double as automobile roof racks, where banjos can be simply repurposed as cooking utensils, and where trumpets, saxophones, tubas, French horns and trombones can be quickly repurposed as practical and attractive bathroom fittings, with just a few adjustments.
This is what I know. Theory time.
And that's it for Theory Time. And speaking of music, here we are again at Song of the Day. Go figure. I mean, look, if there's such a thing as coincidence, that's got to be it right there. Anyway, today we are going to feature a song from one of our Wonderland-approved artists, namely Helge Nyheim from Bergen in Norway. And we're going to play an excerpt from a track on Helge's first album, The Ride Back Home, which was released back in 2016. Here it is, and this one's called For a Dream. For a Dream. And that's Helge Nyheim from Norway, who is a superb drummer, on top of being a great singer and songwriter. Now, if you'd like to hear the rest of that song, as well as the rest of Helge's back catalogue, you can do that by going to your favourite music streaming service. And now on with the show. And I've mentioned more than once the potential perils of going to the supermarket with a shopping list given to you by your wife or girlfriend. In terms of perils, of course, I'm talking about the dangerous likelihood of bringing back the wrong thing, or indeed making the wrong choice when given a choice of what to buy. It turns out that men have the perfect opportunity to get their own back in this respect. And it's a little place called the hardware store. Now, with some exceptions, women are usually as lost in the hardware store as men are in the supermarket. And that's because hardware is predominantly a male domain. I'm not being sexist, it's just true. Right, guys? Having said that, I'm not really much of a handyman myself. My excuse is pretty much always, I am a musician, I'm not a handyman. But unfortunately, this is usually interpreted to mean I'm a lazy sod and I can't be asked learning to do anything outside my comfort zone. Which, if I'm to be honest, isn't really too far wide of the mark. In any case, if you happen to be a man, and you need to reclaim a little bit of dignity following an unfortunate supermarket shopping incident in which your efforts and instincts were found to be substandard, might I suggest that you send the lady in your life down to the local hardware store with a shopping list and the instructions to get the best ones you can find as long as they're not too expensive. And let's see how she goes. But there's a time for everything, of course, and I guess nature's way of expressing that is the existence of seasons, right? Well, sounds good anyway. But in my opinion, seasons are not what they used to be. No, they're really not. I mean, things are getting weird and things are changing. I'm not just talking about the effects of global warming either. And to explain, I think we need to head over to
Geoff's Thought of the Day.
I was thinking about something, I think it was the thought of the day. I think it was the thought of the day.
Hey, welcome to my Thought of the Day, and it really is, because I only had this thought today, and it might even be the only thought I have all day. Okay? Now, I've decided to give this thought a name, and the name is Season Blur, as in B-L-U-R. There was a time, not long ago, where you could go to a fruit and vegetable department and you could tell, simply by what was available for purchase, what season it was. Now, I don't think anybody actually ever really used fresh produce as a type of calendar, but I do think that we are increasingly being offered fruit and vegetables that are not actually in season where you live, but shipped in from God knows where, and often it's bloody expensive and not that great, because it's been ripened in a box on the way, rather than on whatever plant it came off. Am I complaining about this? Well, partly yes, as I for one am not interested in buying expensive and tasteless things, which these long-distance fruit imports especially often are. And while we're on the subject of unsatisfactory produce closer to home, I'm also completely over attractive but hydroponically grown tomatoes with no flavour whatsoever, or strawberries which are grown any time but in summer. Now those suckers are a complete waste of supermarket shelf space, unless you intend making jam out of them and using a lot of sugar. On the upside, all of this does make canned fruit a whole lot more attractive than it used to be. And while we're on the subject of season blur, what's the deal with the traditions of Christmas and Easter slowly spreading their tentacles across the rest of the year in terms of, things like Easter eggs and Christmas decorations now being available at almost all times of the year? What's going on with that? Well, I think I know what's going on with that. It's called commerce. That is, if people will buy it, we'll sell it. Now, they do say there's no point in whinging about what one can't do much about. But we here on the Wonderland sometimes like to have a damn good moan, and also shine a light on these changes, even though we know full well that progress is progress, that the end, traditionally, justifies the means, and therefore that the Easter Bunny and Santa Claus will probably soon be with us all year round. If that bothers you, try to look on the bright side, because it should mean that we can eat a lot more chocolate, and also that we'll never have to worry about taking down the Christmas decorations ever again.
I think it was the thought of the day.
And with that truly frightening prediction, we end Thought of the Day for today, and our episode for today as well. Thanks very much for joining me once again, everyone. Don't forget to subscribe or to follow the show, and remember that you can message me with any comments or thoughts or suggestions you might have by going to www.geoffhealy.com, where you will also see a little yellow message thingy in the bottom right-hand corner of the page, so drop me a line. For now, though, it's time to return to reality. So take care until we meet again next Friday for another almost incomprehensible episode of The Wonderland.
Gotta get back to Geoff's Wonderland.